Hello, my name is Jan, also known as Sydney Plant Guy, and 4 years ago I decided to grow some houseplants in an attempt to decorate my apartment. Well, it has escalated just a little bit, and besides an indoor jungle, I now have a garden and a greenhouse as well, which means lots to see, so let's get started. Come on in. Welcome to the first room of the house, my office/plant room. In this room I've got all of my favorite plants, specifically my velvet philodendron. When I started this hobby 4.5 years ago, they are really what kick-started this, well, it's more than a hobby at this stage, what kick-started my passion. I was really fascinated by the velvet texture of these leaves, and I made it my mission to grow these plants up moss poles to see how large I can grow them within an indoor setting. I've been renting for the full 4.5 years, and as a result of that, I'm very limited in the way I can kind of redecorate or renovate my house or apartment. Well, specifically, I really can't do anything but decorate. Well, technically I can't even hang up a painting as a renter. So I made it my mission to grow plants as kind of living art within my apartment to really get the best out of the places despite having the limitations of being a renter. And that's how I discovered moss poles. I was heavily inspired by social media, and I really took this concept of growing plants up a moss pole and made it my challenge to grow them as fast and as large as possible. And these ones are my favorites. I also have a little jungle tiger. Yes, hello, this is Mr. Brett. I'm really fortunate that Brett is just really not interested in my plants. He loves being around them, he loves lying under them, but he doesn't nibble on all of them. Most of these plants are toxic to pets, so you gotta keep them away from them unless they're a little angel like my Brett, and just don't show any interest. As part of my plant hobby, I also delved into content creation. I create a lot of content sharing my tips and tricks with everybody online, and well, this is where all the magic happens. This is my desk, and I honestly could not be asking for a better surrounding to do my work in. Enough about this room, let me show you the rest of the house. When I started my hobby, I lived in an apartment that had a lot of light, and light will always set the growth potential. I moved 3 times in the last 4.5 years, so my plants and I have gone through a lot, and as a result of all of the moving, I ended up living in a house, which is great because I finally have some outdoor space. But living in a house is very challenging when it comes to natural light. It's much darker, and I have lots of trees shading the inside. So I make use of a lot of grow lights indoors so that every corner, even the darkest ones, can be filled with plants. If you want to learn more about the grow lights that I use, they're always linked in the description, but come on through. Same issue in my living area. I don't have a lot of natural light in here, which is probably a problem that a lot of us would be facing when growing plants indoors. I just use even more grow lights to make sure that I can fill my apartment with as many plants as possible. Now keep in mind that the light exposure also changes throughout the year as well as throughout the day. I actually get really beautiful sunrise coming through this window over here, and then on this side of my living area I've got a huge north facing windows. Keep in mind I'm in the southern hemisphere, so north is the good exposure to have. We're heading into autumn and winter over here, and with that the sun is much lower, which means that within the next couple of hours I'll actually get a lot of light beaming through these windows, but that makes terrible lighting for filming, so I thought I'd get this video filmed before the sun comes through. Now on either side of my north facing window I've got some plants. Over here I've got some more plants, again supported by a grow light, and on the other side I've got some smaller plants so that I don't completely obstruct the view to the outside. Talking about the outside, over the last year or so I really started focusing on gardening because, well, I finally have a garden, and that was a luxury I wasn't able to have previously. I'm quite lucky that I live in Sydney, and we have quite decent conditions throughout the year. We do experience winter, but it's just for a couple of weeks or months of the year, and it's not super cold. Specifically, it never goes below freezing. I think the coolest I have experienced over here is about 3 degrees Celsius. Now, this is not optimal optimal for these plants that I like to grow. All of the plants that I grow are tropical aeroids, so they would definitely prefer warmer temperatures, but this is actually the second year that they're going to spend autumn and winter outdoors, and last year the plants survived. They definitely didn't grow, they didn't thrive, but they also didn't die, and they had a really quick comeback in spring, so I really can't complain. Plus, growing plants outdoors is so much easier than indoors. I just have to walk around with a hose and spray them, and most of the time I take advantage of Mother Nature doing the watering for me anyway. And yes, despite being a renter, I made it my mission to fill this garden with plants. When I first moved in, this was pretty bare, but I don't want to live in a house and look at an ugly garden. I actually enjoy the journey of gardening. I like the planting part. I like the journey of watching the plant grow and fill the space. It's not necessarily just aiming for an end result that I get to keep and look at for forever. So if I need to move on again next year, that's okay. I dig them all out and I take them to my next house with me. I love setting myself a good challenge, and as I said, I like the journey of gardening rather than just aiming for an end result. I also like to learn new things, and that is one of the things that I really enjoy about plants. There's always something new to discover. After I've been growing just indoor plants for about 3 years, I ventured into growing plants outdoors, as well as I got a greenhouse. Now, growing in a greenhouse comes with a whole lot of new challenges, and that is something really exciting for me. I tend to get easily bored, but with the hobby of plants, I just haven't really found that yet, because I feel like this is a never-ending learning curve. There's always new plants to discover, new challenges that we're facing. Also, sometimes things go wrong. We're dealing with living organisms, so it's totally normal for a plant to suffer through pests, or suffer through root rot, or suffer through any sort of things, and sometimes I don't even know what went wrong, but I'll just accept that as part of the hobby. Sometimes things will go wrong, and it's kind of exciting to try again. Alrighty, just one more room I want to show you. Let's go upstairs. And last but not least, my bedroom with a crooked painting. Now, I try and keep the plants in my bedroom to a minimum. I want to have them all downstairs because it's just so much easier. I can just take them into the garden for watering and so on. But I can't have a room without any plants. So while downstairs I mainly focus on moss pots and growing really large plants, up here is kind of my anthurium corner. I love anthuriums for the beautiful textured leaves. Again, like my favorite are usually the velvety ones, and I absolutely love the veining that they present. So I thought up here is like a nice little display for my anthuriums. And again, they're supported by a grow light. This is south facing over here, so light is the biggest challenge I am facing in this house, but that won't stop me. Now, that was a really short and sharp tour of my house, but I will also film a much longer one where we actually look at most of these plants in detail. I give you some growth updates and I talk a little bit more about the conditions and my care approach. And that video will be coming up next, so make sure to subscribe and turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss out on that video. I hope you enjoyed this tour, and hopefully I inspired you to maybe grow some plants yourself. Happy growing!